shows one kiss.
What I was going to say, Mark, that I've been to many annual general meetings over the years, and the only AGM that I've been to that the presenters are expected to remain seated is that of Berkshire Hathaway. So I view this as a very good omen for us. My name is Jeffrey Hall, Chairman of Kingston Wharves Limited, and I will preside over this meeting. On behalf of the Board of Directors, I warmly welcome you to the 2026 Annual General Meeting. It's a pleasure to be with our shareholders today. And we also welcome those joining us via the live stream for our 81st Annual General Meeting. Do you need me to stand or? You can. I should. Ladies and gentlemen, I invite our Company Secretary and Legal Counsel, Mr. Stephen Morrison, to confirm that the quorum of 3 members present in person or by proxy has been met.
I confirm that we do have a quorum, Chairman.
Thank you. I hereby declare this meeting open and invite our Business Development Manager, Mr. Alfred McDonald, to lead us in prayer.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Chairman. May we all stand together for prayer? Let us pray. Eternal Father, we thank you for this wonderful day that you have given to us. And we thank you that we can echo the words in our national anthem, Eternal Father, bless our land. We also ask that you will bless this company, Kingston Wharves. Bless the shareholders and the different stakeholders who have come to witness this conversation today. A very important meeting, the annual general meeting. We pray that you will grant continued wisdom to the board, the CEO and members of staff, that you will grant wisdom as well to each individual participating, and that the conversations will be robust, but will redound to the benefit of the organization. We pray a blessing on the work of every staff member of the organization that has resulted in the outcome that we're about to interact with. And now we ask that as we go into this meeting, that your guidance, your direction, and your blessing will be upon us, and that we will continue to contribute to the welfare and the prosperity of this great nation, Jamaica land we love. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Alfred. The notice convening the meeting, which can be found on page 11 of your annual report, has been circulated to members, and I now propose that we take this notice as read. I wish to inform you that the record date by which proxies are to be exercised at this meeting must have been lodged with the company at least 48 hours before the meeting. We received proxies representing 71% of the company's issued stock. A list of those proxies is available for inspection. The share register, the articles of incorporation, and the minutes of the last AGM are also available for inspection by members on the company's website. Ladies and gentlemen, the accounts and the reports of the directors and auditors have been circulated to all members previously. At this point, I would like to introduce Ms. Rochelle Thompson of PricewaterhouseCoopers, the company's auditors, to read the independent auditor's report located on page 77 of the annual report.
Good morning, everyone. Independent Auditor's Report to the members of Kingston Wharves Limited. Report on the audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statements. Our opinion. In our opinion, the consolidated financial statements and the standalone financial statements give a true and fair view of the consolidated financial position of Kingston Wharves Limited, the company, and its subsidiaries together, the group, and the standalone financial position of the company as at 31 December 2025, and of their consolidated and standalone financial performance, and their consolidated and standalone cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with IFRS accounting standards and with the requirements of the Jamaican Companies Act. What we have audited. The group's consolidated and standalone financial statements comprise the group statement of financial position as at 31 December 2025, the group statement of comprehensive income for the year then ended, the group statement of changes in equity for the year then ended, the group statement of cash flows for the year then ended, the company statement of financial position as at 31 December 2025, the company statement of comprehensive income for the year then ended, the company statement of changes in equity for the year then ended, the company statement of cash flows for the year then ended, and the notes to the financial statements comprising material accounting policy information and other explanatory information. Basis for opinion. We conducted our audit in accordance with International Standards on Auditing, ISAs. Our responsibilities under those standards are further described in the auditor's responsibilities for the audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statements section of our report. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. Independence. We are independent of the group in accordance with the International Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants, including International Independent Standards, issued by the International Ethics Standard Board for Accountants, IESBA Code, as applicable to audits of financial statements of public interest entities. We have also fulfilled our other ethical responsibilities in accordance with the IESBA Code. Our audit approach, audit scope. As part of designing our audit, we determined materiality and assessed the risks of material misstatements in the consolidated and standalone financial statements. In particular, we considered where management made subjective judgments, for example, in respect of significant accounting estimates that involved making assumptions and considering future events that are inherently uncertain. As in all our audits, we also addressed the risk of management override of internal controls, including, among other matters, consideration of whether there was evidence of bias that represented a risk of material misstatement due to fraud. How we tailored our group audit scope. We tailored the scope of our audit in order to perform a sufficient work to enable us to provide an opinion on the consolidated financial statements as a whole, taking into account the structure of the group, the accounting processes and controls, and the industry in which the group operates. Key audit matters. Key audit matters are those matters that, in our professional judgment, were of most significance in our audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statements of the current period. These matters were addressed in the context of our audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statements as a whole, and informing our opinion thereon, and we do not provide a separate opinion on these matters. Key audit matter, valuation of plant and buildings, group and company. Refer to notes 2D and 15 to the financial statements for disclosures of related accounting policies and balances. Plant and buildings totaling 25.4 billion for the group and 22.6 billion for the company are carried at fair value within property, plant, and equipment on the group and company statements of financial position, respectively. These balances are significant to the financial statements of the group and company as a whole, representing in aggregate 38.3% of the group's and 42.4% of the company's total assets at year end. The group's valuation policy for freehold land, plant, and buildings allow for periodic but at least triennial valuations by external independent valuation experts who were engaged in the current year to perform a revaluation exercise. We focused on this area as determining the fair value in respect of plant and buildings is subjective, with significant judgment applied, including management's assumptions relating to useful lives, contractors' charges, labor charges, material cost, property size, price per square foot, location, age, and condition, the assumptions. How our audit addressed the key audit matter. Our approach to addressing the matter with the assistance of our valuation experts included the following procedures amongst others. Assess the objectivity, competence, and capabilities of management's external valuers to determine whether there was any affiliation to the group and whether they hold the requisite professional qualifications and experience to carry out reliable valuations of the group and company's freehold land, plant, and buildings. Inspected the final valuation reports and agreed the fair value to the group and company's accounting records, recalculated the revaluation gains by reference to the valuation reports and the accounting records. For a sample of external valuations, we compared the current valuations for plant and buildings with the previously completed valuations to determine whether useful lives and ages of properties were consistent. Performed an independent evaluation of the assumptions that underpin the valuations, including by reference to relevant market data and signed contracts. Other information. Management is responsible for the other information. The other information comprises the annual report, but does not include the consolidated and standalone financial statements and/or auditor's report thereon, which is expected to be made available to us after the date of this auditor's report. Our opinion on the consolidated and standalone financial statements does not cover the other information, and we will not express any form of assurance conclusion thereon. In connection with our audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statements, our responsibility is to read the other information identified above when it becomes available, and in doing so, consider whether the other information is materially inconsistent with the consolidated and standalone financial statements and our knowledge obtained in the audit or otherwise appears to be materially misstated. When we read the annual report, if we conclude that there's a material misstatement therein, we are required to communicate the matter to those charged with governance. Responsibilities of management and those charged with governance for the consolidated and standalone financial statements. Management is responsible for the preparation of the consolidated and standalone financial statements that give a true and fair view in accordance with IFRS accounting standards and with the requirements of the Jamaican Companies Act, and for such internal control as management determines is necessary to enable the preparation of consolidated and standalone financial statements that are free from material misstatements, whether due to fraud or error. In preparing the consolidated and standalone financial statements, management is responsible for assessing the group and company's ability to continue as a going concern, disclosing as applicable matters related to going concern, and using the going concern basis of accounting unless management either intends to liquidate the group or the company or to cease operations or has no realistic alternative but to do so. Those charged with governance are responsible for overseeing the group and company's financial reporting process. Auditor's responsibility for the audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statements. Our objectives are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the consolidated and standalone financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue an auditor's report that includes our opinion. Reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but is not a guarantee that an audit conducted in assurance with ISAs will always detect a material misstatement when it exists. Misstatements can arise from fraud or error and are considered material if, individually or in aggregate, they could reasonably be expected to influence the economic decisions of users taken on the basis of these consolidated and standalone financial statements. As part of an audit in accordance with ISAs, we exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit. We also identify and assess the risks of material misstatement of the consolidated and standalone financial statements, whether due to fraud or error, design and perform audit procedures responsive to those risks, and obtain audit evidence that is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. The risk of not detecting a material misstatement resulting from fraud is higher than one resulting from error, as fraud may include collusion, forgery, intentional omissions, misrepresentations, or the override of internal control. Obtain an understanding of internal control relevant to the audit in order to design audit procedures that are appropriate in the circumstances, but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of the group and company's internal control. Evaluate the appropriateness of accounting policies used and the reasonableness of accounting estimates and related disclosures made by management. Conclude on the appropriateness of management's use of going concern basis of accounting and, based on the audit evidence obtained, whether material uncertainty exists related to events or conditions that may cast significant doubt on the group or company's ability to continue as a going concern. If we conclude that a material uncertainty exists, we are required to draw attention in our auditor's report to the related disclosures in the consolidated and standalone financial statements, or, if such disclosures are inadequate, to modify our opinion. Our conclusions are based on the audit evidence obtained up to the date of our auditor's report. However, future events or conditions may cause the group or company to cease to continue as a going concern. Evaluate the overall presentation, structure, and content of the consolidated and standalone financial statements, including the disclosures, and whether the consolidated and standalone financial statements represent the underlying transactions and events in a manner that achieves fair presentation. Plan and perform the group audit to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence regarding the financial information of the entities or business units within the group as a basis for forming an opinion on the consolidated financial statements. We are responsible for the direction, supervision, and review of the audit work performed for purposes of the group audit. We remain solely responsible for our audit opinion. We communicate with those charged with governance regarding, among other matters, the planned scope and timing of the audit and significant audit findings, including any significant deficiencies in internal control that we identified during our audit. We also provide those charged with governance with a statement that we have complied with the relevant ethical requirements regarding independence, and to communicate with them all relationships and other matters that may reasonably be thought to bear on our independence, and where applicable, actions taken to eliminate threats or safeguards applied. From the matters communicated with those charged with governance, we determined those matters that were of most significance in the audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statements of the current period, and are therefore key audit matters. We describe these matters in our audit report unless law or regulation precludes public disclosure about the matter, or when, in extremely rare circumstances, we determine that a matter should not be communicated in our report because the adverse consequences of doing so would reasonably be expected to outweigh the public interest benefits of such communication. Report on other legal and regulatory requirements. As required by the Jamaican Companies Act, we have obtained all the information and explanations which, to the best of our knowledge and belief, were necessary for the purposes of our audit. In our opinion, proper accounting records have been kept, so far as appears from our examination of those records, and the accompanying consolidated and standalone financial statements are in agreement therewith and give the information required by the Jamaican Companies Act in the manner so required. The engagement partner on the audit resulting in this independent auditor's report is Garfield Rees, PricewaterhouseCoopers Chartered Accountants, Kingston, Jamaica, 2nd of March, 2026. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Kingston Wharves is fortunate to have a very experienced, diverse board, a board that is forthright and works well together. And I'd like to take a moment to introduce you or reintroduce you to our directors. First, our CEO, Mr. Mark Williams, Mr. Philip Armstrong, Mr. Bruce Breckheisen, Mr. Kim Clark, Mr. Roger Hines, Mr. Charles Johnston, Mrs. Charmaine Mirage, Mrs. Kathleen Moss, Mr. Robert Scavone, Mr. Dorian Valdez, and Mr. Grantley Stevenson, who sent apologies, but I'm sure everyone here knows Mr. Stevenson. I'd like to now ask Mark, Mr. Williams, to introduce some of the senior members of the management team of Kingston Wharves.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning. I'd like to introduce Ms. Clover Moody, Group Chief Financial Controller. Group Chief Financial Officer. Mr. Ryan Peart, General Manager, Terminal Operations. Mr. Samuel Reed, General Manager, KW Logistics Limited. Captain George Reynolds, Managing Director of SAL Security Administration Limited. Mrs. Ava Baker, Director, Human Resource and Administration. Mr. Farrell Alexander, Director of Engineering. Mr. Maurice Barnes, Director of IT. Mrs. Simone Murdoch, Corporate Services and Client Services Manager and Client Experience Manager. Mr. Alfred McDonald, Business Development Manager. Mrs. Sterian Gordon, Financial Controller. Mrs. Frances Mighty Hutchinson, Internal Audit Manager. Mr. Wayne Ballon, Security Manager. Mr. Rowan Campbell, Safety Manager. Ms. Crystal McGilvey Brown, Business Services Manager for Newport Stevedoring Services.
Thanks, Mark. And I just want to make a comment that the most significant share of the business that Kingston Wharves does, in terms of discharging and reloading containers, motor vehicles. Of course, we do other things, grain, lumber, steel, cement. But by far the single largest share of it is a transshipment business. And it's important for people to realize that the people with whom we deal in the transshipment market have a choice. And they've chosen to do business with Kingston Wharves, recognizing that they could do this business elsewhere. And it's a complicated business, and it's a real and physical business. You're moving 3,000 motor vehicles a week and not getting them scratched and not losing them, etc. And the team that Mark just introduced does that day in and day out to deliver the results about which we're going to speak today. And for me, that's important. The second thing I'd like to just bring your attention to is that arising from Hurricane Melissa, Kingston Wharves was called upon to play a very unique and special role because of our capabilities. And Mark, under your leadership, Kingston Wharves did not flinch. It immediately allocated specific warehouse space. We accommodated, without fanfare, the operations of the Jamaica Defense Force within our organization and made available to the country our IT systems, our personnel, our controls, and our facilities. And it speaks volumes to the kind of organization that we are and the leadership that we're able to do that, not for any kind of celebration or press release, but because it mattered to the country. So those are the two critical points that I wanted to raise with you. I now invite Mr. Mark Williams to make a presentation on the performance of the business for the year 2025 and the outlook for 2026.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, all. Let me say at the start, it's remiss of me not to introduce my attorney. And given my position, I always am in need of my attorney, Mr. Stephen Morrison, Company Secretary and Attorney. Let me just add my bit of welcome to you this morning at this annual general meeting. It is indeed my privilege to be your Chief Executive Officer. You know, 2025 has been a remarkable year for Kingston Wharves. We did not only celebrate 80 years of excellence, we delivered our strongest performance in 8 decades. You can applaud. And I want to, at the start, just to acknowledge the wisdom and insight of the board, especially my chairman. We have had robust discussion over the year, and even most recently just now. Thank you, board, for your continued insight. I do appreciate it. But equally important, I want to acknowledge the 1,003 staff members that come to work every day, rain or shine, 24 hours a day, to deliver amazing results. I just want to acknowledge you. This morning, before we start, I also want to take the opportunity to acknowledge a phenomenal shareholder in Kingston Wharves, Mr. Orad Staple. You know, Mr. Staple passed earlier this year, and I just want to recognize his contribution to meetings like these. If you've been at any AGM, you know you would start with, Mr. Chairman, I want to make 2 observations, and I have 3 questions. I want to acknowledge him, Mr. Staple, for his very inquisitive demeanor in the way he asks his questions. It has made us better for it. Well done to Mr. Staple. We look to others who will take the baton and continue to challenge management to ensure that of every dollar, Mr. Staple would say, 70 cents. Let me just acknowledge Mr. Staple. This morning, this presentation is going to be in 4 parts. I'm going to start by, just sharing with you about this well-diversified business that we call KW Group. I'm going to take you through, as I said, record financial performance of 2025 and have a conversation with you about where we are in Q1 of 2026. And then I'll give you some key highlights and achievements and eventually take you on a journey of what we call Voyage 2030, shaping the next chapter of Kingston Wharves. Our business is a well-diversified business. It's in 2 broad segments. Our terminal operations, which is the backbone of what we do at Kingston Wharves, that has Newport Stevedore Services Limited, KW, and Caribbean Stevedore Services Limited. The second part of the business is a logistics services division that has a security company, a cold storage business, Western Storage. It is a suite of logistics services that is well invested, well defined, well structured, that cause us to deliver a global product and service. That diversified group is the gateway to the Americas. Kingston Wharves Group service over 45 countries worldwide. All of the Caribbean, South America, Central America, North America, Europe, Asia. This diversified holding of 8 companies touches the entire globe. And that's the company that you have invested in, and that's the company that you've entrusted in the leadership to lead that company. I want to spend the next few minutes to talk about an amazing year that we have had in 2025. A landmark year of achievements. Your company delivered $12.7 billion in 2025, an 18% increase over what we did in 2024. When a company gets to 8 years old and can deliver record profit, it means, therefore, that the fundamentals of the business are solid. It means that you have a strong board that is very competent, that is in touch with the realities of the business, and the strategies are executed seamlessly by an amazing team of staff. Our top-line performance of $12.7 billion translated right through the P&L to the bottom line. We delivered $4.2 billion in operating profit, and our net profit after tax, we delivered an amazing 31% increase. We moved from $2.7 billion in 2022 to a record $3.6 billion in 2025. Thank you on behalf of the team. But let's break that down. So we move that record performance from just the P&L right through to your balance sheet. If you look at the screen, total assets grew by 9% to $66.2 billion. That's your investment in plant, in equipment, in property, and the associate business in cargo handlers, which I'll talk about a bit. Shareholders' equity grew by 9% to approximately $52 billion on the back, as I said, of record revenue of $12.7 billion and operating profit of $4.2. Thank you. What I want to do, as usual, is to make it clear that the structure of KW business, it's not just for 1 year. On your screen now, it's 5-year projection, 5-year record of what we have delivered. Over the past 5 years, your company has delivered 46% increase in its revenue position. We moved from $8.6 billion in 2021 to $12.7 billion in 2025. If we go back to 2026, it's up. If we go back to 2020, it would have been up by 56%. Similarly, your operating profit moved from $3.5 billion last year. We had a challenging year last year, and the business was able to grow its operating profit to $4.2 billion. I want you to note, shareholders, the trajectory of the business performance. It's not a one-off occurrence. It's based on well-thought-out, well-executed strategy that we have delivered and delivered well. Let's take a look at what were the drivers for this amazing increase. You know Kingston Wharves, your company, it's a multi-purpose terminal and logistics business. The nature of our terminal business underpins their exceptional performance. We were able to grow break bulk cargo by 80%. Your break bulk cargo is your lumber, your steel, your project cargo. And clearly, after Hurricane Melissa, there was need for lumber, there was need for steel, there was need for building equipment, and your company stood up and stood up well. We were able to have an increase of 12% in bulk cargo, Again, bulk is your edible oil, your grains, your salt. We deliver record year in motor vehicle movement, over 14%. We moved over 180,000 cars. I want to pause here because this is, in fact, a phenomenal performance from Kingston Wharves. We are one of the main hubs in this area of the globe for 5 of the 7, the world's largest car carrier, called Kingston Wharves. And we're able to deliver solid performance. Let's look now at the divisional impact. So as I said, our terminal business, which is the backbone of our business, 67% of our revenue and 74% of our profit came from our terminal business. Our very fast-growing and very important logistics business contributed 33% of revenue and 26% of our profit. So again, I like to show trends so you understand the sustainability of the performance of Kingston Wharves. If you look at the screen, revenue for our terminal business has grown by 51% over the past 5 years, delivering $8.4 billion in revenue. Similarly, if you look at our logistics business, as I said, it's a fast-growing sector. We at Kingston Wharves, we embrace the position of the government that Jamaica can become an integral node in global logistics. And, you know, we have paved the way, I believe. Kudos to Grantley Stevenson, my predecessor, who had started this business, and we continue to drive success through our logistics business. But what does that mean for you, our shareholders? And I wish Mr. Stapler was here, because I would be pleased to let him know that we've moved earnings per share by 33% from $1.86 to $2.47. And that translates, with all the performance, to $1 billion in dividend that we've declared in 2025. If I was elsewhere, I would pause for an amen. You know, our ultimate aim is to increase shareholder value. This $1 billion, in our minds, is a clear position that we're saying to our shareholders, as the business continue to grow and continue to be profitable, our promise to you is that we will return to you a reasonable amount of that profit for your dividend. Understand that the terminal business is a very capital-intensive business. And therefore, I know we're going to have the conversation later on that why couldn't it be more? But we require to have a delicate balance of reinvesting that profit into our business. Last year, 18 months ago, we spent $30 million to construct a berth, and you will see the effect of that, the returns on that. $25 million to construct a best-in-class cold storage facility. We have bought cranes, we have bought equipment. So you might be saying, but you deliver $3.6 billion and you're only giving us $1 billion. It's that delicate balance that we need to maintain to have a well-invested terminal that is very sustainable and thinks long-term in its development. Record year of profit, record year of dividend. What I want to do now, shareholders, is to just give you a quick peek into our performance for first quarter. The journey continues. We delivered in Q1 18% increase in our revenue. We moved that from the record year in 2025 from $2.8 billion to delivering $3.3 billion in revenue in Q1 of 2026. This is amidst global geopolitical tension, rising oil prices, et cetera, et cetera. Our profit before tax fell by 12%, but I want you to know this did not take us by surprise. Much of this has to do with the fact that we took up the mantle, as the chairman said, to contribute during Hurricane Melissa. We had extended shifts. We had extended gate hours. We offered services free of charge because we believe that we are not only here to deliver profit for you, but to be responsible corporate citizens. That's one. The other is we hold a long position in our cash position in US dollars. And in Q1, the revaluation of the Jamaican dollar would have caused us to lose about $81 million. When you compare that to a positive inflow last year of just over $102 million, the net effect is $200 million. So what you see there for our first quarter, don't be alarmed. It has been well managed. It has been well challenged by the board, who's very forthright with their executive team. But I want you to know that we have delivered 18% at the top line, and we're mindful of what we're seeing at the profit level. So that is about the numbers. But Kingston Wharves is more than just numbers. We're an active participant in the things that we do in this country. So as Jeffrey said, during Hurricane Melissa, Kingston Wharves stepped up. In fact, within hours of the hurricane passing, Ryan Peart and his team had their terminal open, delivering oxygen to hospitals. Thank you. We also, as the chairman said, offered in excess of 20,000 square feet of warehouse space to ODPEM. We had up to 60 members of JDF on our facilities just moving cargo. We had our staff volunteering. We had our partners with Seaboard offering free service. We had major discounts just to ensure that we were good corporate citizens. I want to pause just to, again, acknowledge this amazing set of 1,003 employees at Kingston Wharves. What else did we do? As usual, we are very focused on giving back to the community. We're very focused on youth development. We're very involved in cricket. And, the West Indies playing tomorrow. I'll tell you that the Jamaicans who are on the team would have passed through Kingston Wharves under 15. We have been very involved in Read Across Jamaica. And very important, and dear to me, is the impact of the women at Kingston Wharves. And you see from the slide, we were recognizing International Women's Day, Women's Day, and we have an amazing cadre of women on our team. In excess of 40% of the management team are women, and we thank them for their contribution. Let me give you some highlights quickly at what, some of the driving force behind this exceptionally good performance, and then to shape the chapter of where we go. Last year, I shared with you that there are 5 key points that Kingston Wharves is looking to execute. We're of the view that if this business is going to grow, not just incrementally, but exponentially, we needed to expand our borders. And therefore, mergers and acquisition is a conversation that we're having. We're of the view that we must diversify our revenue stream. And you would have seen the wide array of services that we offer into containers, motor units, bulk, break bulk. We want to expand that. We think it's very important that operational excellence and digital transformation must form part of the cornerstone of where we go next. And most importantly, to be very obsessed on serving our customers, delivering a high service model, and ensure that we deliver value to our shareholders. I'm going to take you through this very quickly. Strategic investment in cargo handlers. I want to say to you, board members, shareholders, last year we talked about mergers and acquisition and how we can scale our business, not just in Jamaica, but across the Caribbean. We made a plan. We effectively implemented that plan. And I'm pleased to remind you that Kingston Wharves Limited officially acquired 27% as a strategic stake in Montego Bay Cargo Handlers Limited. Plan made, plan executed. We believe that it is a very strategic partnership. Mark Hart and the team at Cargo Handlers have done an exceptionally good job. We feel that with our experience, with the growth trajectory from Montego Bay as the tourism capital of Jamaica, as a fast-growing commercial center, that Kingston Wharves' experience in terminal operations and logistics expertise can add value. Along with that investment, we have an option call to move that from 27% to 40% over 2 years. We're considering that, and at the right time, once it makes business sense, we will make that decision. Plan made, plans fully executed. We also said that we are going to improve our infrastructure. We have demolished a particular warehouse, Birch 5. That was the last of 8 warehouses that were initially on the terminal. I'm sorry about that. I'm giving you evidence of what we did with your money. That's part of the demolition of Birch 5 warehouse. And I can tell you, shareholders, that the day after it was fully demolished, it was occupied by cars. And I just want to acknowledge Lennox, who's in charge of engineering on the terminal, who led his team to demolish that building, retrofit the surface, and ensure that we were able to store cars within 24 hours. So that's part of the infrastructure development that we told you about last year. But apart from that, we also, I'm going to show the second video. I told you we spent US $30 million about 18 months ago to remodel Birch 7. That investment was well thought out and immediately reaped benefit. What you're seeing on your screen is the world's largest car carrier, the Hogue Aurora. It carries in excess of 9,000 cars. And just based on the draft of that vessel, Birch 7 was perfect for the vessel to dock at Birch 7. Its maiden voyage to this side of the hemisphere was at Kingston Wharves. I want to say, as I said, we moved in excess of 180,000 cars. We're of the view that this can be doubled in another 2 or 3 years. We're in need of space. We're mindful and fully supportive of the government's position of what will be happening at Tinspen. And I want you to know that we've already said to the government that we will take 50 acres. That 50 acres is not just to park cars. Our view is that that 50 acres will redound to jobs. When you're moving 300,000 cars, you need drivers. We feel that immediately we can employ an additional 150 to 200 young persons to be drivers. We're into short stay maintenance. Young and upcoming mechanics can have jobs. We need discrepancy clerk. We feel that working with the government, getting 50 acres at Tinspen can easily give the country another 150 to 200 jobs. What we did also during this improvement in infrastructure and capacity, we realized during Hurricane Melissa that corporate entities were having a difficult time clearing their cargo. We heard the cry, we answered, and we established a dedicated commercial stripping center, 100% for commercial cargo. We want to ensure that as a company and as a country, commercial cargo that drives business will not be in a warehouse somewhere not being released. And your company answered that call. We relocated those older buildings on the terminal off dock, again, US $25 million, being invested to ensure that high margin area, land space, is utilized for high margin cargo. And that's what we did. Plans shared, plans seamlessly executed. Again, I discussed with you shareholders last year that if we're going to move the needle in our business, we need to be very focused on operational excellence and digital transformation. You can't track 180,000 cars with a pen and paper. You need digital tools to track those cars. You can't service customers in the traditional way because time is money and customers need to move. So we made a plan. We executed that plan. 50%, we increased our online payment and online facilitation by 50% in 2025. As of 2025, 51% of KW revenue is collected online. Promise, I normally say promise made, promise deliver, but I rather say plan shared, plan seamlessly executed. Last couple of slides. We feel that if Kingston Wharves is going to be transformed, the incremental steps will not do that. And therefore, we have what we call Project STAIR, charting the next chapter. I said in 2025, we delivered $12.7 billion in profit, 46% in revenue, 46% movement over 5 years. Well, we want to do better in the next 5. We're proposing that we need to move from 46% in 5 years to almost 60% in 5 years. And therefore, we have a very bold vision of delivering $20 billion in profit in 2030 and deliver in revenue. Thank you. You know, I know you'd prefer profit. I know you'd prefer profit, but we'll get to the $20 billion in profit maybe in 2040. But for now, $20 billion in revenue, $5 billion in profit. So what is STAIR, you may ask? The acronym, we want to be very focused on service leadership. We want to be a very customer-centric company that builds reliability and consistency. We're about transparency and using technology to drive day-to-day activity so that the staff on the ground can have real-time dashboard to understand the cost that drives the business. In fact, we have engaged an overseas consultant who's helping us with technology to just have real-time dashboard so that we can see what's happening immediately. We want to be very focused on operation excellence, continuous learning, continuous improvement, driving our business. We want to be very efficient in cost discipline. We're mindful that cost, there's good cost and there's bad cost for a business. We want to ensure that we eliminate or at best reduce those bad costs. And importantly, results matter. And our focus, as I said, is to ensure that we have measurable incremental improvement that compounds over time and deliver clear proof of value so that we can give you more dividend. Shareholders, our ultimate goal, as I said, is value creation for our shareholders. The plan is to deliver sustainable, long-term value through disciplined financial management and strategic execution. The KW Group have a capital structure that is very strong balance sheet. We're very liquid with cash. We have very clear strategic focus, clear demands and expectations from the board. We have a very competent and committed workforce, and our commitment to you today is that we'll continue to deliver extraordinary results for generations to come. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mark. You got our attention with those remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, we now invite the members to ask questions of management. There being no questions. Oh, we have a question? Yes, sir. Please state your name.
Livingston Young.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
First of all, I give God thanks for the other meeting. Without him, we wouldn't there. So we give God thanks. All right, you can turn to page 115. Note 3D. Liquid risk. Financial liability. Cash flow. You there, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
1 month, 2 months, within 3 months, 3 to 12 months, 1 to 5 years. First one is borrowing of 21,804,000. The next one, losses in liability of 8,359,000. Payables. What made up his payables are 2,667,325.
Thank you very much, Mr. Young. Mr. Young has drawn our attention to note 3, which sets out the liabilities of this company. And we note that the liabilities come due over various periods of time in the future. And we've identified those liabilities that come due within 1 month and those liabilities that come due within 5 years and everything in between. And for good order, we've also categorized the liabilities into categories, Mr. Young. One category is borrowings, lease liabilities, and then trade payables. And we've compared them this year versus last year. So that's what this is trying to convey. And your specific question, yes, is correct, that the number 2.667 billion represents the trade payables due within 1 month.
What are the plans What are the plans to grow Kingston Wharf for 2026 and 27? Sometimes the car must sell off. The unused car, what you not do with them to
Mark, what are you doing with the
extension?
unused cars?
Thank you. Chairman, it's important for me to state clearly that Kingston Wharves is not involved in the sale of cars. I want to make that clear because, recently in the media, it has been saying that KW executives are involved. It's a scam. But let me just make that clear. We're not involved in selling cars. But to your point, what do we plan to do? Part of the presentation was, give you a clear roadmap of how we plan to grow our business. We've made huge investment in equipment because we expected that there will be continuous increase in containers. We talk about cars, wanting more space for cars. We do expect that the business will continue to grow, and therefore we've made considerable investment in our business to have it grow.
Thank you.
All right.
Cool. Any other questions? Well, please come, please. Oh.
It's working? All right. Shirley David Rose. Actually, for the moment, good morning. Shirley David Rose. I'll send a minute or two.
There's a request for you to stand.
Morning, Shirley David Rose. Morning to the board, Person Panjam, and other executives present. My first question is related to the KWL Cargo Handlers Limited acquisition. I'm seeing 30 million cash outflow in the 2025 consolidated numbers, 977 million investment on the share of associate opening balance, but a $9.70 or 1.1 billion trade value on the market last year. So for the CFO, Moody, can you just clarify what I'm seeing between the cash outflow on the cash flow statement, the opening balance on the share of associate vis-a-vis what was traded last year?
Okay, good morning, everyone. As it relates to the cargo handlers transaction, we would have made a cash payment of $300 million, and we have a loan. So including in our borrowings, you'll see the difference between the value which we would have paid for those, the value of the shares, and the amount that we have paid. So there is a loan that is to be paid over the next 2 years.
So it's structured with some deferred consideration.
Oh, so deferred consideration, no. So I appreciate that clarity. We just wasn't immediately
Obvious.
Understandable off the bat. So, with respect to the CEO Williams, it was at the 2024 AGM you spoke about the company investing $100 million USD over the next 5-6 years, in terms of expanding the company. You just outlined targets of 20 billion consolidated revenue, 4 billion profit, which is a 25% profit margin. So, firstly, earlier you pointed to the demolition of one of those warehouses, I believe, and you're speaking about the current car business. So the first question is, with respect to the logistics terminal business, is that with respect to the cars?
Yes.
So with respect to the terminal expansion opportunities, you mentioned Bird 7, but what's the plan otherwise going forward?
Thank you. The plan is to continue in infrastructure development and build out to be consistent with the growth in our business. So we took a strategic decision, as you've mentioned, for Bird 7, and as I said, it immediately bore fruit because when that vessel came, it could only have docked at either 7, 8, or 9. And what we're seeing increasingly is that larger vessels are calling Kingston Wharves. 3 weeks ago, Hogue Autoliner, same shipping line, had an inaugural call for a new vessel. And again, the first call was at Kingston. So what we are seeing is the opportunity to grow our business and it will require capital investment, and we'll continue to make those capital investments.
Appreciated. Just a couple more questions. So towards you again, CEO Williams. So last year you would have purchased 70 Ashamheim Road, and I recall the company was working on phase 2 of Ashamheim Road project. What's the update with respect to that, or those two developments?
Two separate things on Ashenheim Road. We would have purchased property many years ago, 12 acres. We've constructed a 130,000 square feet fully integrated cold storage and dry goods facility, fully tenanted, international tenants, PriceSmart, Shad, we have cold storage. What you might be referring to, we would have acquired a separate property, land, that we use in a very strategic transaction as a land swap as we continue to expand the boundaries of the terminal. So what we did, we acquired property on 3rd Street. And we used that property at Ashenheim Road in a very strategic land swap to continue to expand the boundaries of the terminal.
I appreciate it. You can understand, recur from my questions because you're mentioning several strategic development moves which are very broad, so you can appreciate the context.
Right.
So just to follow up earlier, you mentioned 50 acres of land and the opportunity to create more job opportunities with respect to the vehicle space. Can you explain a little further, because this was immediately clear to me what's the proposition or opportunity there.
Right. So, unfortunately, last year we had to refuse a number of car vessels because we just don't have the physical space. And I'm happy that you mentioned it, because we would have communicated at a meeting like this before that we had planned to construct a multi-level car park. We have looked at the numbers for that, and it's proven to be not the best use of funds at this point. We would have said to the market, we had committed US $15 million. When we have done all the drawings, the number is now US $25 million. We're looking at an alternate solution that we think will adequately house the number of cars that we're talking about. But we feel if we're going to move our car business to really become not just the hub in the Caribbean, but a global hub, we need 50 acres. And the government, through the Honorable Prime Minister, has already communicated that they do have plans to retrofit Tinspen, and we put our hands up and we say we want to help, and we will do so with 50 acres and delivering another 150 to 200 jobs.
David, if I can just make a comment on this. There are a number of different cargo types that are significant in the terminal business and logistics business. Obviously, the container business is well recognized, and Jamaica already has a regional leading position in that space. Another very important space, when you look at major transshipment or logistics hubs globally, is the automotive business, for obvious reasons. That business is complex. So not only does it involve, as Mark mentioned, highly skilled labor, because you're moving cars of high value, which have to be synchronized to load in and load out. You have to be able to have IT systems to locate them, etc. The range of vehicles that move. So, for example, one of the skills that Kingston Wharves has, and I just speak to this because I think it may be misunderstood in the public domain, when a car vessel arrives with thousands of cars, I mean, the Aurora that Mark just referenced docking recently, what's the capacity of that vessel, Mark?
Over 9,000.
So it has a capacity of 9,000 cars, not just cars, by the way. On that vessel will be excavators, will be construction cranes, will be trucks, articulated lorries, etc. So within the organization of Kingston Wharves are the skill sets to be able to take those motor vehicles off, locate them in a sensible place, and then receive orders or instructions, if you will, to redistribute, let's say, of the thousands of cars that may dock, there's a number that would go to Cayman, a number that would go to Antigua, a number that goes to New Zealand, etc. So it's a very important high-value activity. The design of the space that can serve this, obviously Mark referenced a cost, kind of value for money. That's just one of many considerations. Another consideration is just the turning radius, the physical space, the tension, the capacity to withstand heavy equipment, the water table relative to the port is important to consider. And so what we have done is worked closely with the Port Authority to identify suitable spaces, and the Prime Minister has announced this as an important option for Jamaica.
I appreciate your comment, Chairman Hall. And with respect to your comment earlier, CEO Williams, when you referenced the cost trade-off, I believe you're saying that based on the...
And the point I was making is that I don't think that the cost trade-off by itself would be the most salient point here. The point here is that, because the difference and forgive me, I think it's important from a shareholder perspective to say all the issues, but to give you some context. You know, the life of this kind of asset is long. So the short-term differential between A and B is on the list of considerations. The headline consideration is that Jamaica must, if it chooses to be in the automotive logistics space, designate the space necessary to accommodate this opportunity. Now, we are already doing it, and we're already doing well. That's what's delivering the results for shareholders, and we referenced the year-on-year growth. So I don't want to overstate the kind of financial engineering of one particular facility, because it's just one option.
No, I get that, but it was with respect to his point, with respect to the multi-level car garage or storage structure, because generally speaking, as you pointed out, there's a long opportunity or carrying value for this asset, but in terms of the current day perspective, it's, as you mentioned, space and also best use of capital, because while the company is relatively low levered, you want to get the best return without carrying a drag on the P&L shareholders' detriment. So, and then a final
question. But I don't, let it not be the case that the question is, you know, is this a kind of a quick and dirty, cheap and easy A versus B narrative? This is not, this conversation that Mark is having and the organization, the board, the team, et cetera, is not about this versus that. It's about, at the end of the day, accommodating a huge, important opportunity that Jamaica has defined for itself in automotive logistics. And that, to me, is what we all need to concentrate on, you know.
So,
and I think it is a testament to the commitment of the government, and in particular the leadership of the Prime Minister, that they've identified an alternative that could make sense for Jamaica.
I appreciate it. So a final question with respect to CEO Williams. I remember in the prior 2 years, at the 2024 AGM, you had mentioned the focus on developing a Western Jamaican capacity, you know, with a logistics facility complex or opportunity. You started the first M&A movement with cargo handlers, which built backward integration for you. But in terms of that Western Jamaica focus, what does that look like, especially towards this 2030 steer vision that you have?
Right. Thank you for that. So cargo handlers investment is very strategic in that. And we continue to have interest in building out in Montego Bay. We do have business partners down there. We have Seaboard as a business partner. Now we have cargo handlers as a business partner. And the conversation is how best we can come together to have a solution that will benefit the people of Montego Bay. As I said, Montego Bay is the tourist capital of Jamaica, commercial hub that is growing. Kingston Wharves will be in Montego Bay in one form or the other.
So what's the, is there a specific timeline now towards that opportunity, or is it a deferred plan?
I would say in the short term, the plans will be communicated clearer. We're having conversation. There are opportunities down there, and we intend to help to offer solutions in Montego Bay.
If I can just give you a view, we spent a lot of time as a board, obviously understanding the Kingston opportunity, which we described to you before. And that opportunity we think is huge, and it's global, and it references the space allocation that we spoke about, the demolition of the berth, et cetera, of the warehouses, et cetera. When we looked at Montego Bay as a board and as an organization, we took a very specific decision, which was to identify who in Montego Bay already is doing an outstanding job, A, B, has a track record, has been in the industry for a long time, C, understands and taps into the expectations and needs of that specific community. And so what we can say is that the first move, which is the one that's relevant here, was to take a partnership interest, as Mark had said, to invest in and alongside that existing arrangement. The next steps, we can be very specific on, will involve working with that enterprise to secure the growth.
Appreciate it, CEO Hall.
Hi, morning. Nicola Borrelli, shareholder. I was going to ask you about Western Jamaica as well, but that has been thoroughly answered. But I would like to suggest, if you're not already doing it, that given your logistic prowess, if I could call it that, that you avail your services to the ODPEM. Because from what I understand in the press, they seem to need that. It's just being realized that they are a logistic central force, so to speak. I don't know why it took us so long, but nonetheless. Congratulations on all you've been doing as well.
Thank you very much, shareholder. Obviously, the government has announced the next phase in not just the recovery, but the rehabilitation and redevelopment with the announcement of NARA and its leadership. And I think we should take the advice of the shareholders, Mark, and meet with them and ensure that we offer our support and services to the extent possible. Thank you. Thank you very much for your comments and your suggestions. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, Lansel Bloomfield, shareholder. Page 129, note 6. Mr. Chairman, in 2024, your customs overtime costs was 109,154 million. And in 2025, this line item has climbed to 173.44 million. Please clarify what exactly is customs overtime.
Thank you for that, Mr. Bloomfield. So while the terminal operates 24 hours, certainly for our warehouse business, that closes at 5 p.m. Once customs is involved, Kingston Wharves has to pay overtime. I made mention of, and certainly on the weekends on the terminal, I made mention of a deliberate decision that we took to support the country in national recovery during Melissa. And much of that would have been associated with terminal warehouse being open until 11 at night, open on weekends that we have to pay customs overtime for. It is a position that we are having, it's a conversation that we're having with the government, because if we go back to wanting to become a critical hub for logistics, the matter of customs overtime is not a position that we can use to compete globally. But it is as you see there.
Thank you for that. Same page, 129, note 6. Mr. Chairman, In 2024, information technology was 164,764 million. And in 2025, this is 164,448 million. Please give us some clarity on why your IT is costing so much.
Mark, Clover.
Our CEO spoke earlier about digital transformation, and much of the software and the systems that we use and the technology that we use are not owned. We have license fees that we have to pay for the use of these systems. And we're talking about systems that we use for stevedoring of vessels, tracking of cargo. Our chairman just mentioned that as well. You can't maintain and track cars by paper. So this is a technology that is used to support our logistics and our terminal operations.
Thank you for that. And my last question. Mr. Chairman, this company has acquired a good portion of shares in cargo handlers with a view to acquire more shares in this company in the future. Please give us some insight into what are some of the things cargo handlers does.
Sure. Can I just say, Mr. Bloomfield, in relation to your last question, I think it's, in the current moment, it's probably a blunt instrument to look narrowly at the IT costs and anticipate that they should go down, year on year, or say in the next 2 or 3 years. I think for many companies like ours, you may see slight increases in IT expenses, but the expectation should be that our overall productivity would improve as a result. So I don't want to kind of give the impression that you should reasonably expect a significant drop-off in the IT expenses, or that the organization is particularly concerned about the level of IT expenses now. In fact, the presentation that Mark shared, there's an emphasis on actually building up our IT capacity to look forward to the future. One of the things that is going to be notable is that as Kingston Wharves makes the investment in skill sets and capacities, one of which is IT, but there are many others, is a question, and there are fixed costs associated with that. The question is, how can we deploy that, not just in Kingston, but across other jurisdictions, including Montego Bay? As I said in relation to Mr. Rose's question, the decision in Montego Bay was explicitly to invest in an existing player. That existing player has done some things quite well over the years that we really respect. One of the things that they've done is they have brought to, first of all, they run a stevedoring operation. So they handle the business of receiving a vessel and discharging the cargo on the vessel. But the company and its principals over the years, because of their specific commitment to Montego Bay and to the Northwest generally, they have participated in identifying cargo types that serve the Northwest and serve Montego Bay. So beyond just the sheer business of unloading the vessel, over the years they have participated in supporting the development of the distribution sector that serves the hotel industry as principals. So they've done that. They've done business over the years to develop the LNG support services in Montego Bay. They've done business over the years to support the development of the cement business that allows for the construction in Montego Bay. So those are the two things that we really value about investing in cargo handlers. One is that they're already present doing stevedoring, and two is that they have really an outstanding track record of developing cargo in the area.
Thank you very much, sir.
Mr. Young, your final question.
Yes. Mic check. Page 140, note 15, property, plan and equipment. Fair value. group fresh holding land 2025 and 2024 of 17,038,055 cents. 2024, 16,702,361. Explain to a open balance and at valuation, transfer between levels, transfer within addition, disposal, closing balance. Now explain to it the disposal of 255,444,000. That's 2025 alone. Your explanation, please. Disposal.
Over the disposal under the property, plant, and equipment.
I don't hear.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Young. I appreciate the question.
No, I said don't hear your answer.
I'm gonna ask our CFO to answer the question.
Oh, all right.
So the question is that, first of all, Mr. Young, it's $17 billion.
Yeah, that must say 17 billion.
Yeah.
That must say 17
And the
billion.
disposal of 254.
Those would be the lands that
2025 and 2026.
Yeah.
Mr. Williams would have made reference earlier to lands that we purchased and that it was used in an acquisition of lands closer to the port. So that's a land swap transaction that we did.
So disposal is a kind of a funny word and probably not the word that we would want to use, but it's really the transfer or the removal of or the sale of some land. And the CFO is saying that the decision to sell was strategic in order to accommodate somebody who was going to move off of land that we wanted. We made it available to them. So thank you very much, shareholders.
Well,
for your...
One more, somebody.
No, give me that mic.
Two more.
Just an hour. Yeah. Robert March is the name. Speaking of lands, Kingston Pen now, you're taking over all of Kingston Pen? Will there be room for the aircraft, or the aircraft will have to move out?
You're asking, Mark, he's asking, the shareholders asking, are you taking over?
Well,
remember, shareholders,
jet. It's private jet.
It's we.
Land is private
it's
jet.
we, because we're all in this together, right?
Where's this private jet going to land?
No, so the government has communicated a plan to close Kingston Pen. We are not involved in the decision to close Kingston Pen. What we have said to the government, having made that decision, we want to help in bringing employment to Jamaica and expand our automobile business from a predominantly Caribbean logistics center to a global logistics center. So it's the government's plan. We're just acting on that.
So I forgot the Norman Manley then.
I'm not sure what they're... It's good that you have a plane.
I thought about your private jet.
No.
And Mr.
That's it. When you get the 20 billion of prophecy spoke about earlier, we can talk about the private jet.
Speaking about that 1 billion now, I know you're the only company in Jamaica, based in Jamaica, that has SEZ.
No, we're not the only company, but we're one of the
Jamaica.
most. Let me just say one quick thing to your first point about Kingston Pen.
All right.
Jamaica has this aspiration, which I think is quite right, to have a logistics hub. If you have a logistics hub and you consider yourself in the league of other countries that do, a much larger share of the city is dedicated to the business of logistics. And certainly the area that is proximate to the coast is designated for that purpose. And that's going to happen consistent with the government's plans in time. And so I don't want to make it about Kingston Pen or not Kingston Pen. If we're going to do our ambitions, you would reasonably expect land that's proximate to the port to be, in time, converted to logistics.
But it's just to the western side of Kingston Pen. It's a smaller, you're 50-some acres. It's bigger than that western side that they use at airstrip at Kingston Pen. So you're not taking up all of Kingston Pen, you're just taking up a small portion.
Right now we're not taking all of Kingston Pen, but I'm just saying that in the fullness of time, you should reasonably expect Kingston Pen or the areas adjacent to the port to be deployed for logistics.
Okay. All right, back to special economic zone.
Yes, sir.
You're the only company in Jamaica that has, on the stock exchange. There's no other company.
As far as the stock exchange, David Rose is our expert, and he is advising us that Stanley Motor, which I think offers space to. Well, but I don't want to get into anybody else's business.
What I'm talking about is a benefit.
Let me just say this to you, sir. Let's speak about Kingston Wharves. Kingston Wharves precisely because of our ambition in logistics, is in the top 3 users of the SEZ legislation, individual users. And we have designated our facility as a special economic zone to allow people to use our facility and benefit from the tax and other incentives. I don't know if others are doing that to the same degree. We do know we're not alone.
The reason why I say that, because you're the only that you don't pay any tax on dividends because you're a member of the SEZ. That's why I bring it up. The $1 billion, it won't be taxed. Dividends going to shareholders. And I've proven that. Because I've received dividends and no tax come out. I don't know if I should be saying this and get in trouble now.
Well, you should buy some more shares in this company.
You are correct.
Is that correct?
You are correct. There's no tax withheld.
Right, that's a zero.
From the payment of dividend.
Right.
Mr.
Which
Chairman,
I'm happy for.
I'm pleased that we have a happy shareholder with his dividend.
Right. And I hope the the Revenue Center don't come after.
All right.
But
it's a very productive meeting.
Yeah, one more.
Do you have any more questions? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Annella McFarlane, and I am a shareholder. And I must say congratulations to the company for the progress so far. I noted that berth 7 was discontinued or demolished sometime before, and now berth 5, after demolition, was in use in 24 hours for cars. I want you to explain to me what was the function of those 2 areas before and what has replaced them.
Thank you for that, Ms. McFarlane. So I would have communicated that prior to the demolition of those warehouses, we would have constructed at Ash 9 Road replacement warehouses, 130,000 square feet of warehouses. So what we have done, we've moved those warehouses that used to be on the terminal off the terminal. So, and prior, you made mention of the warehouse for berth 7. That was previously, we acquired a separate warehouse a few years ago, and we moved that business that used to be conducted on the terminal off-site. So we still have those businesses. We're just using the terminal area for higher margin cargo.
So when, I don't want to belabor this, but I think it's such an important question. When Kingston Wharves was founded 80 years ago, and those berths were developed from reclaimed land, the business of discharging cargo from a vessel was far less containerized, far less automated, far less mechanized. You were talking about crates and pulleys and so on. And they would then put the things that were discharged into warehouses which were on the dock. Now, by far, in relation to, say, consumer goods, these items come in containers. And by far, almost entirely, some exceptions, which Cora and Robertson will mention, they use cranes to discharge them. And those cranes need to operate on the face of the berth and drop the containers there. So we have, and this has been an incredible piece of work and vision and capital investment. We have systematically redeveloped the berths, which in fact allows us to build them a little bit further out into the sea, refilling them while not shutting down the operations, demolish the warehouses, bought cranes and put them on the dock, put warehouses somewhere else, and cause the business to continue. So it's an orchestra of operations that Mark and his team have led over the last several years to pull this off. And what's important is that all the while we've been growing shareholder value and profits as we're doing it. And so it's really one of the, I think, important business stories that's happening in Jamaica right now. And I thank you for the question.
Mr. Chairman. I wanted just to clarify the taxes. Yes, there's no taxes withheld on dividends paid, but just to let you know that your company bears a part of the liability for that gift that you're giving. Yes, so there is a clawback in our taxes that we pay to the government for that, a portion of that tax that you should have paid. Yes?
History.
My father worked for Kingston Wharves for 40 years, right? And so it's part of my bread and butter growing up, you know what I mean? And I used to go down there when the wharves, Port Royal Street, when the wharves were sticking out.
Right.
And you had little channels with molasses running down and everything was loaded by hand. So I just give me a little bit of history of Kingston Wharves. I know Kingston Wharves from I'm a baby.
And everything we're saying is true, right? Thank you for your comments and your suggestions. I believe we've addressed your questions and trust that you're satisfied with our responses. I'd like now to proceed with the agenda as outlined in the notice and to consider the resolutions before us. I refer to the first item of business, which is to receive and approve the audited financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2025. The accounts and the reports of the directors and auditors, I believe, have been previously circulated to all members, and Ms. Rochelle Thompson from PricewaterhouseCoopers has read the auditor's report. I now request that the director's report, located on page 29 of the annual report, be available for review by shareholders, and I now ask our secretary to read the first resolution for consideration.
That the audited financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2025, and the reports of the directors and auditors circulated with the notice convening the meeting be adopted.
Thank you. May I have a second? Mr. Johnston, thank you. All in favor, please raise your hands. Any opposed? I declare the motion carried by majority, or unanimously, excuse me. Number 2.
That as recommended by the directors, the interim dividend of 26 cents per share paid on August 15th, 2025, and of 44 cents per share paid on January 16th, 2026, be and are hereby declared as final, and no further dividend be paid in respect of the year under review.
Final and tax-free. Mr. Rose? Thank you. Second? Mr. Hines? All in favor, by show of hands? Any opposed? I declare the motion carried unanimously. Okay, I will be sure to raise that with the board at our next opportunity. Ordinary resolution number 3. I can tell you the director is retiring from office by rotation pursuant to Article 107 of our articles are Messrs. Kim Clark, Dorian Valdez, Mark Williams, and Philip Armstrong. And all of the retiring directors are eligible and offer themselves for re-election. With that, I'd ask our secretary to read the resolutions following.
Thank you. That Mr. Kim Clark be and is hereby re-elected a director of the company.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. May we have a second? Mr. Johnston. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Clark.
That Mr. Dorian Valdez be and is hereby re-elected a director of the company.
Mr. Rose, Mrs. Johnston. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I declare the motion carried unanimously.
That Mr. Mark Williams be and is hereby re-elected a director of the company.
I have to have a proposal. Mr. Johnston. Mr. Rose. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I declare the motion carried.
That Mr. Philip Armstrong be and is hereby re-elected a director of the company.
You have those names, Mr. Secretary?
I do, your chairman.
All in favor? Any opposed? Declare the motion carried unanimously. Now we're going to deal with our auditors.
That PricewaterhouseCoopers Chartered Accountants, having agreed to continue in office as auditors, be and are hereby appointed auditors of the company to hold office until the next annual general meeting at a remuneration to be fixed by the directors of the company.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Mrs. Moss, second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Declare the motion carried unanimously. Director's fees.
That the amounts shown in the account of the company for the year ended December 31st, 2025, as fees of the directors for their service as directors be and are hereby approved.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Do we have a second? Mr. Young, I appreciate that. All in favor? Any opposed? I declare the motion carried unanimously. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the formal business of this annual general meeting. I thank you for your attending and for your continued confidence and support, which are essential to our success. I would also like to express on your behalf our gratitude once again to our directors, management, and team members who all worked exceptionally hard to navigate the challenges faced during the year and to come out successful. I now declare this meeting closed. Thank you.
Just inviting our shareholders to have some light refreshment with us outside on the terrace.
And it's steady, exciting. Have a new rebound. Right here in my heart, you'll always stay. Inseparable. You are the sun of my life. So much excitement when you are around. There's so much about you that words cannot say. Makes you wanna love you in a special way. Under you, gave new meaning to my life.
Wharves Limited. We are a part of your lives. Moving cargo to support your way of life while supplying your business. We sustain life and health, doing the heavy lifting so you and your family can access life-giving supplies and maintain a positive well-being. We are integral to Jamaica's economic growth and job creation, underpinning the ever-changing landscape of our island and paving the way for a brighter future. Deeply committed, integrated, and ever-present in your lives. While you are sleeping, we are working hard through the night. Multi-purpose, multi-user, relentless. We never stop until we deliver. For nearly 80 years, we have partnered with you and we remain committed to our promise to see you through every aspect of what you do. Kingston Wharves Limited, we are a part of your lives.
Of Jamaica's economic life. For decades, the port has stood as a symbol of visionary nationalism and the embodiment of the audacious Jamaican entrepreneurial spirit that has driven the country's development throughout the course of history.
Kingston Wharves was an amalgamation of different wharf owners who came together in 1945.
In 1945, three pioneering businessmen, Charles Edward Johnston and Captain C. Brent List, founders of Jamaica Fruit and Shipping, and Louis Fred Kennedy of Grace Kennedy and Company, led a group of wharf owners in downtown Kingston to join forces to form one new port company, Kingston Wharves Limited, KWL.
Sir Alexander Bustamante was unionizing the port workers, and he was picking off the terminals, individual owners, one by one. So they felt, okay, maybe it's better we form one big wharf company, negotiate with the unions, and also there were efficiencies to be gained by combining together.
And the ships kept coming.
The Shipping Association of Jamaica was formed around that same time in order to negotiate for the ship owners, for the shipping agents, with the unions. It was a union of employers, and still is.
A major shift in the life of Kingston Wharves came in 1966, when the port company relocated from downtown Kingston to Newport West to occupy 56 acres of reclaimed land, comprising berths 5 to 9. There, Kingston Wharves would drop anchor, firmly plant its roots as it expanded its footprint.
When we moved to Newport West in 1966, Western Terminals owned berths 1 to 4. Western Terminals was owned by a different group of people, including the Matalan family, the Lascelles Group, Commonwealth Development Corporation, which is a UK assistance company. They own 1 to 4. Kingston Wharves owned 5 to 9. And each berth had a shed on it. 9 warehouses on the front. Can you imagine that today, when you look out there and you see one warehouse left? So that makes a greater efficiency of movement, of handling of cargo, etc., etc. Today, Kingston Wharves now owns berths 1 to 9.
For nearly 6 decades after its establishment, the wharf was operated by Grace Kennedy and Company Limited. It saw a period of development, including growing its portfolio of shipping lines, effecting physical and operational improvements, and listing on the Jamaica Stock Exchange in 1995, among other achievements. Grantley Stevenson was executive chairman and CEO from 2003 to 2019. Presiding over a period of accelerated modernization and expansion, spanning the NCB and JP eras.
The main revenue drivers then were wharfage and a percentage of the storage. Berth 8 and 9 was derelict at the time. I got a design to rebuild Berth 8 and 9 at $26 million US. So naturally, it was a challenge to get the board to agree to make that kind of expenditure when the future wasn't that assured. The other challenge was getting the financing. Only one commercial bank would even talk to us. We convinced them, we got the loan, and we built berths 8 and 9. The construction was completed in 2008, and that facilitated us getting into the transshipment business. When the transshipment business started growing rapidly, we focused on the car business. And by 2008 to 2009, we signed a 10-year agreement with Hogue to handle transshipment vehicles. And as time went on, we leased land from Kingston Pen to expand the car business, which has been a tremendous success.
But auspicious events would spark a paradigm shift and set Kingston Wharves on an accelerated growth trajectory. Between 2012 and 2014, the NCB Group, the major shareholder since 2004, sold its shares to the Jamaica Producers Group. This move gave the JP Group controlling shares in KWL and would define the company's development over the next decade.
We started looking at Kingston Wharves in 2011 and concluded the transaction in 2012. And what Jamaica Producers Group saw in 2011 was a strong, visionary management team led by then CEO Grant Stevenson. They had a vision for expanding the terminal, for deepening the infrastructure. But 2011 was a time of uncertainty. Jamaica had a debt exchange in 2010, followed up by another debt exchange to restructure our debt in 2013. So we were in the middle of this period in which there were concerns about the economic future of the country. So we had a company with a big vision on the one hand, but an environment of uncertainty. Its earnings in 2011, when we were looking at it, were about $350 million. The management team wanted investment because they wanted to pursue a big vision. Jamaica Producers has had a long relationship with Kingston Wharves. We traded with Kingston Wharves as an exporter of bananas. So we knew the company, we knew the management team, we had a long relationship, and we wanted to support the vision.
Prepared for the future on a solid foundation, Kingston Wharves has continued to consolidate its position as a leading gateway to the Americas, with connections to over 45 destinations. Kingston Wharves is mindful that it has not taken this journey alone, but knows its success and destiny are harnessed to the solid partnerships that it has forged over the years.
We're very pleased to have Seaboard as a partner with us. And because they're with us, we can take long-term decisions about capital allocation, knowing that they see the opportunities from the same lens that we see them. Kingston Wharves, from its inception, brought together stakeholders in the maritime sector. Until this day, that's a vital part of how Kingston Wharves looks at the opportunities and how it consults and who's in the boardroom and who's on the list of shareholders.
KWL's achievements are also direct result of its committed team who show up to make a difference every day.
It has been an awesome race thus far for those who have gone before. I took the reins in 2020 and the company continues to achieve many great successes. For example, in 2020, we've moved revenue by 50%. In 2020, it was $7.1 billion. Last year, we would have had our best year as a company, growing revenue to over $10 billion. We have seen the assets of the company growing tremendously, $60 billion in assets that's under the portfolio of Kingston Wharves. So I'm very pleased with that, and I take my hat off to that team because we have done reasonably well.
When a car ship arrives in Jamaica with 2,000 cars, and those cars have to be discharged one after the other in an efficient movement, and then stationed on the terminal, and then another ship comes and they want to pull 100 cars, 200 cars, 500 cars, those cars have to be located. Those cars can't be scratched by a wedding band. Those cars have to be planned. They have to have the documents. They have to have the keys. And the expertise to do this is profoundly valuable to Jamaica.
And the expansion continues.
We've been investing heavily in just improving the plan. So over the past 5 years, we would have invested in excess of $70 million US. 2 years ago, we have refurbished one of 9 berths. US $30 million. Last year, we've added an additional US $25 million, building out not just our terminal infrastructure, but our logistic infrastructure. And, as you would imagine, with a terminal like ours that continues to grow, we need new equipment. This year, for example, we're spending an additional $10 million in just buying new equipment, refurbishing the equipment.
An award-winning, multi-purpose port handling bulk, break bulk, and containerized cargo, KWL is also a reputable auto transshipment hub and a growing provider of logistics services. Generations of leaders have run their leg of the race, honoring the solid foundation and the awesome legacy that they carry. It is one steeped in a tradition of excellence and one that is ever propelling the company forward, undaunted as it pushes the boundaries into new territories and higher dimensions of performance.
The next phase of growth for Jamaica as a country and even the Caribbean region is into logistics. In fact, we've expanded our clientele. We have tourism, we're into electronics, we're into multi-units, we're into pharmaceutical. We're doing much of this 3PL, third-party logistics, by building out infrastructure, building technology, and of course, improving the competence of our people. And we do share the view of the government that Jamaica can become the fourth node in this logistics hub initiative.
Kingston Wharves has stood the test of time, navigating rough seas and intense storms, but has kept the ship steady and remains relentless in piloting the vessel safely to its destination.
My vision for Kingston Wharves is to continue our emphasis on innovation, operational efficiency, and securing a bright future for not just KW as a company, but Jamaica as a country.
The vision that the management team brought to us when they said, come on in, has actually paid off handsomely.
I believe that Kingston Wharves has a responsibility as a good corporate citizen to ensure that as we grow our profitability for our shareholders, we invest in the country that we do business in.
You could say our strength lies in nearly 80 years of building a formidable shipping and logistics company, driven by innovation, vision, and a resolve to make yesterday's success pale in comparison to the stellar achievements that are always up ahead. You could say our strength lies in the transformation of our landscape as we push the boundaries and conquer digital frontiers for operational efficiency, service delivery, and profitability. Ever moving, expanding, and growing to attain boundaryless possibilities. We say it's all true, but that's just a part of our story. We say our real strength lies in a committed team, the movers and shakers behind the scenes, offloading cargo from huge ships, driving cars over ramps for transshipment and the domestic market. They are vessel planners, mapping with precision to ensure ships make safe journeys to global destinations. They make sure engines and work run smoothly without fail. Drive trucks, stackers and cranes. They do the heavy lifts and unpack containers to meet delivery targets. They make sure you and your cargo are secure. Expertly manage your transactions, share information, greet with smiles, lead with integrity, and more. They are the people behind the moves. They're not always seen. They're not always loud or in the forefront. They are relentless, simply working with quietness and diligence, but on every continent. In over 45 global destinations, their impact is felt. They are the quiet strength behind our moves.